Hello, students. Are you having a good time? As a professor, I am enjoying teaching this class to you. And we are beginning to see the end of the tunnel, and pretty soon this class will be end. Okay, this section will introduce the history of inter-Korean relations after the Korean War, as well as international society's efforts to dismantle North Korean nuclear weapons. The direction and the goals of this section will help students understand why two Korean relationships have been deadlocked and how hard it is to reach an agreement with Pyongyang. First, I would like to talk about the fluctuation of tensions between the two Koreas in the numerical order. After the Korean War in 1953, there were no official contacts nor dialogues between the two Koreas. There were virtually no. Instead, the bilateral tensions kept escalating year by year until 1972. In the meantime, there were various kinds of North Korean provocations, including the infiltration of armed forces. They sent spies and submarines and military ships and etc., etc. Also, there were many cases of kidnapping celebrities, including the movie star and the famous director, and fishermen, and killing civilians, and sinking South Korean Navy ships, and so on. And in the year 1972, there was a breakthrough in the bilateral relations, the so-called the July 4th Joint Communique. South Korean Chief of CIA, Lee, visited Pyongyang secretly and signed the joint communique on July 4th, 1972. And bilateral dialogue started for the first time after the war. And he and Kim Il-sung agreed on three principles of unification. First, non-intervention of external powers. Implicitly, this principle includes the non-intervention by the United States. Second principle is unification by peaceful means. No matter how many benefits it will have, the unification by war must not be considered. So unification by peaceful means is one of the significant principles they agreed on. Third principle was national integration as one nation. Since Korea has been a one nation in the past 5,000 years, so both of them agreed to seek for a peaceful national integration sooner or later. This is a picture of the meeting between the head of Korean CIA and Kim Il-sung in 1972 in Pyongyang. However, even after the 1972-74, bilateral conflicts and discord continued, largely because of the mutual distrust and mutual hostility. At the same time, a fierce competition of the systems went on together. So even after the July 4th joint communique, there were not many dialogues followed. But in 1984, dialogue restarted. In the year 1984, there was a flood in South Korea. And many people lost their homes, and some people lost their lives. Surprisingly, North Korea offered humanitarian aid to South Korea. And again, surprisingly, South Korea accepted North Korean offer of humanitarian aids for the flood. So after that, dialogues, the bilateral dialogues in various fields started, such as economic cooperation and the Red Cross, also the family reunion, and cooperation between the two legislatures and exchange of the sports games. The first family reunion started from 1985 because there were more than 15 million people who were suffering from the separation with their family members or relatives or parents, including parents and siblings and something like that. So this is a picture of the first family reunion meeting. And he, on your right, is a son from the south, and the living mother in the north. They are sharing the pictures and ask how they are. But many of the parents became old and passed away. But still, millions of South Koreans are waiting for their family reunion. But North Korean government allowed only a few times after that, few times of family reunion. But since the Kim Jong-un stepped in, there were no family reunion meetings. Also in the year 1988, when the Seoul Summer Olympics was held, it was a momentum of the South Korean policy change towards North Korea. Because the South Korea invited all socialist countries to the Seoul Olympics, including the Soviet Union, China, and DPRK. And South Korean government acknowledged that DPRK is a company for national prosperity and seeking for appeasement and cooperation. This was a fundamental policy shift of South Korean government because DPRK was no longer a rival. Also, South Korea abandoned the Holstein Doctrine, which was the West German basic policy to exclude any countries that had diplomatic relations with East Germany. So South Korean government adopted the Holstein Doctrine right away after 1955 and kept it until 1988. Also, in the year of the Seoul Olympics, both sides signed a basic agreement for appeasement and non-aggression. And between North and South Korea, also addendum was adopted. This was an institutional device for cooperation. After this agreement, there followed several meetings of high governmental officers between the two Koreas and family reunion meetings, both in Seoul and in Pyongyang. But in July 1994, the sudden death of Kim Il-sung got rid of the important momentum of the appeasement between the two Koreas. So July 1994, Kim Il-sung died, and his son, Kim Jong-il, succeeded. With the death of Kim Il-sung, two Koreas lost a momentum to improve the bilateral dialogue and cooperation.